Welcome to the Susan LoPresti Wellness Mind, Body, and Soul podcast. This is your go-to space for midlife and mature women who are ready to reclaim their health, boost their energy, and live long, vibrant, and purposeful lives. Each week, we dive deep into natural wellness, holistic healing, anti-aging strategies, and healthy lifestyle habits to help you feel your best physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Whether you're navigating menopause or working through chronic conditions or simply wanting to age gracefully and intentionally, this show is your sanctuary for science-backed insights, powerful stories, and soul-nourishing inspiration. So if you're a woman over 40 or 50 looking to thrive in the next chapter of your life, you're in the right place. Today on Susan LoPresti Wellness Mind, Body, and Soul, I'm excited to welcome a truly groundbreaking guest, Elliot Justin. Elliot is a Harvard-trained emergency physician and the founder of FirmTech, a company transforming the way we understand sexual wellness by connecting directly to cardiovascular and overall health, rather than relying on outdated pill first approaches. Elliot's work brings objective, science backed data into conversations that are often overlooked or avoided entirely. FirmTech's FDA registered tech ring tracks nocturnal erections, offering powerful insights into vascular health and early cardiovascular indicators. With a database of over 84,000 tracked erections, Elliot and his team are uniquely positioned to provide meaningful, personalized guidance that goes far beyond symptom management. This conversation is especially important for the women listening, particularly those navigating midlife, perimenopause, and postmenopause, because sexual wellness and heart health are deeply connected, yet rarely discussed together. Elliot also shares how women can better understand their own health and support the men that they love using smart, data-driven sexual wellness technology. Elliot's innovative work has earned prestigious recognition, including the Healthcare Business Award from the Science and Engineering Health Technologies Alliance and runner-up for innovation in fitness, health, and well-being at CES Showstoppers. He has spoken on over 200 podcasts and reaches more than 10,000 health professionals and wellness enthusiasts. But today's conversation is all about authentic, meaningful education and empowerment. This is an eye-opening discussion that bridges science, technology, and holistic health, and you won't want to miss it. So without further ado, Elliot, welcome to my podcast. I'm very excited and honored to have you here today with us. Can you share what inspired you as a Harvard-trained emergency physician to focus on sexual health and create FirmTech?
That's a great question because they're just a series of coincidences and personal interests that got me here. I'll share with you that I've always been particularly interested in sex. Don't think I can't think of any other doctors I know of whose mother took them to urologists twice when they were teenagers because she was concerned about their masturbation habits. So she thought I would get into college. Anyway, mom, I did get into, I did. So uh, that's the sense of, of who I am. I live in Montana and I ride horses. And many years ago, I ran into a tree because my wife says I ride like a 15-year-old. I say I ride at least like a 25-year-old, but I can be fairly, let's just say, feckless, not reckless. There was a tree that had fallen over a trail, and someone had cut the tree so you could walk underneath it, but you couldn't ride underneath it, especially if you're going about 30 miles per hour on a horse and weren't and was having a great time and not looking in the right way. So anyway, hit the tree. I certainly broke that tree into many pieces, but I also broke 6 ribs and 6 vertebrae. Unfortunately, I didn't have a spinal cord injury, but that got me interested in what's been done to rehabilitate sexual health in men and women who have spinal cord injuries. because this obviously be profoundly valuable. And there were several papers in the medical literature, peer-reviewed papers, claiming that they were able to neuromodulate the human sexual response in men with spinal cord and multiple sclerosis. So by neuromodulation, think cardiac pacemaking. Most people are familiar with. We basically put an electrode in the heart. We have an external battery pack, and we keep the heart beating even after you're dead. So to be able to do this, especially for sex, to be able to pace make human sexuality, especially in an aging population, would be profoundly valuable because love making is so important to our mental and physical health overall. And it's something that we all, pretty much everyone desires is to have a longer lifetime of satisfactory intimacy. So I tried it out on two rams, two male sheep, and we got weak erection and strong ejaculation, but we also got defecation and urination. So it wasn't exactly bedroom friendly. So I then the ordinary path would have been let's go to Silicon Valley or to New York or LA and raise 15, $20 million and then test out this technology on, I don't know, 15, 20 men and name it, Brazil or Nigeria, men with erectile dysfunction to see if we could help them. Instead, I had a friend of mine who's a urology professor at the University of California, San Francisco, tried it out on me, went to his outpatient surgical facility, had his wife, who's also a urologist, implant two electrodes by my pudendal and cavernous nerves, everyone's two favorite nerves that no one has ever heard of, but they're
Yeah.
the nerves that are responsible for arousal and climax in men and in women. And they come out from under the pubic bone and they're in actually the same location, men and women under the pubic bone. So we planted electrode and we tried all sorts of amplitudes and frequencies. I felt nothing. I actually don't think, on the basis of just studying myself, I don't think we really understand the neurophysiology completely of arousal and climax in men and women. I think we have a lot to learn about it. We've come to conclusions, these urologists and gynecologists come to conclusions without a lot of data verifying what they're doing. That said, I called this Project O for obvious reasons, and I wanted to get it published, and it's really hard to get negative studies published, but about 4 years ago, a urology professor at the University of Utah heard about Project O and said he wanted to work with me to come up with a way of counting the number of nocturnal erections that men have because they're a leading indicator of cardiovascular health. I am an expert in remote patient sensor technologies. Many years ago, I had a telehealth company. Actually, found second oldest telehealth company in the United States, founded around the same time as Teladoc, which still goes on. And that got me interested in what type of technology, kind of smart wearables, can we give people at home so they can ideally not have to go to the doctor, or they can detect problems before they become more significant problems. This doctor, he's now my chief medical officer, contacted me, and my reaction was a leading indicator of cardiovascular health. That's really powerful because in medicine we treat associations, don't treat a lot of leading indicators. A leading indicator is predictive. So high blood pressure is associated with stroke. But if you pick up myself, if my blood pressure goes from 125 to 140, it's not predicting anything. It's just giving me a little bit of a signal that maybe if this persists over time, I could have a problem. The same thing with we follow people's lipoproteins aggressively, maybe too likely too aggressively. But if my cholesterol goes from the high normal range to the low abnormal range, which is what happens to many people as they get older, I'm going to be 73 next month. It's not predictive. It's associated with atherosclerosis, and we throw statins at it very aggressively and recommend diet changes, but it's not predictive. But if the number of nocturnal erections that man has, goes down by 50%, that man has a close to 50% chance of having some sort of cardiovascular problem manifest itself in the next 2 or 3 years. Could be a heart attack, could be angina. So that's really powerful. So when he told me that, I thought, God, this is a vital sign that would be a lot more interesting to men than from some fluctuation in their blood pressure
Mhm.
or how many steps to take yesterday, or my digital scale is telling me whatever, I gained 5 pounds. By the way, women have nocturnal erections too, and no one has studied them since Mass and Johnson. And to jump ahead, we will be coming out with a device for women and their providers to assess the health of the clitoris next year. Given where we are with the research, it's inevitable. But getting back to the male thing, when this doctor told me he wanted to count nocturnal erections, and I said, let's just not limit ourselves to nocturnal, because what erections do men care most about? The ones that they have when they're having sex. And I think all women who are involved with men know that a man is only as good as the last two or three erections. A man who has difficulty performing sexually it almost becomes mentally ill. And I'm exaggerating right now, but it's distress. It's distressing to women too.
Yeah.
Not guy For a guy, it might take a week for him to get upset. For a woman, maybe it takes a few weeks, but it's a profound issue for men and women. So if we can use smart wearables to figure out the status of people's sex organs, that would be profoundly valuable. Plus, it's a reflection of cardiovascular health in men and women,
Mhm.
because in order to have arousal and climax, you have to have good blood flow.
Yeah.
And actually, I think women have more issues than men. And why is that? It's because premenopausal women take birth control, many do at least, and they also take antidepressants way beyond what men do. Both those medications have profound impact upon their sexual health and probably the health of other body systems as well too. And we doctors pass out these pills like they're Pez. Hey, and we don't warn people about the side effects of them. And that's the problem. Now, postmenopausal women have all the same problems that men do with diabetes, hypertension, atherosclerosis. Postmenopausal women lose a good deal of their hormonal protection against cardiovascular disease. And HRT is helpful. And I think also, as we're going to see over the next 5 to 10 years, testosterone replacement therapy for women is going to become the norm because of the loss of health as well too. But that's what I got involved in it. I fell off a horse or got knocked over a tree. I did a study on some rams that was promising, and on myself that was unsuccessful. And the urology professor heard about this. And here we are 4 years later. We have the world's largest database of men's sexual health. We've documented close to 150,000 erections on 3,000 men. And with that data, we are now gaining a greater understanding of what actually causes erectile issues in men, and also how men can follow their sexual health in order to which is a reflection of the cardiovascular health, and get warning signs about their cardiovascular health.
Yeah. Do you have any resistance or skepticism from people when you bring in this data technology into it's a sensitive topic? So how's
Yeah.
it received?
Well, there are two types of resistance, if you want to call it that. The one is with some urologists, and why is that? It's because we have discovered that the leading cause of erectile dysfunction is not what the doctors have thought it has been since the 1990s. And matter of fact, the problem actually starts with the definition of and then how the doctors have responded to that. Here it is. The, the expectation was that as men get older, the firmness of their sex erections, the firmness of their nocturnal erections, the duration of the nocturnal erections, the number of nocturnal erections will go down. Now, the incidence of erectile dysfunction, I want to get back to that word in a moment because it's wrong. The incidence of erectile dysfunction goes up 10% per decade after age 40. I'll be 73 soon. That's 70% by my age. And this is an enormous problem. So what did we discover with our data? Men reporting erectile dysfunction, but for 85% plus of men, they were staying just as hard, having just as many nocturnal erections, staying just as firm until late 60s, early 70s. And then it began to taper, but not taper enough where they shouldn't be able to perform sexually. So what's going on? So the doctor's assumption, the academic urologists see the sickest people in their practice. What's seeing the sickest people? They still see the sickest people in their practice. They see the men who struggle to get an erection or can't attain an erection at all. The vast majority of those men have a cardiovascular problem, which is why our data is really important, because our data can identify that problem early before it happens. So these men have either heart's not pumping enough blood to their penis, they have angina, they have heart attacks, they have congestive heart failure, they have other heart issues, and or often in combination, they have narrowing of the arteries to the penis. So they're not getting the blood in from diabetes, hypertension, and other heart problems. So they struggle to get an erection, or they can't get an erection at all. Those men have genuine erectile dysfunction, and they need to see a cardiologist and a urologist in order to suss this out, especially if a man is over 45 or 50 to get checked out. We've had 3 men that we're aware of get cardiac catheterizations and potentially have their lives saved by our technology, but really actually saved by their wives. Their wives bought our device for them, and because they didn't want to buy the device, because a lot of guys have a difficulty with this issue, and these men, at least 2 of these 3 men, were blaming their wives for their problems in bed, and their
Wow.
wives suspected it was something else. And indeed, in all 3 cases, it was something else. So, what's really going on for most men? Why are It starts with our misstep with the fact that erectile dysfunction is mystified. And let me just, you said it earlier that most of your listeners are women. Let's go back in time for women because women escape this problem. So there's something called FSD, female sexual dysphoria. No one ever talks about it.
I never heard of it.
Exactly. So that's what happens if you go back to the late 70s, early 80s. You look a little bit younger than me, Susan. I won't guess at your age, but that's when I was in medical school and resident, then got out, and I was in my prime, and I was dating, and at that time, someone, at last, for the sake of women, and this person should be hailed as a heroine or a hero by feminists. Who were these people? They decided to commercialize the vibrator. So the vibrators have been around since really, the mid-19th century. They were steam-powered vibrators that were female massagers for female problems, but they were vibrators. My mother's vibrator in the 1950s was a massive massager that, of course, she had hid away in a supply closet in the garage. God knows what a sex life like with my father. But and of course, we found it, didn't know what it was. But in the late 70s, early 70s, early 80s, they started to be miniaturized and made more commercially friendly. It was wands or Dr. Ruth's or oscillator, things of that nature. And when the vibrator came along around the same time that feminism started to have an impact, good impact on healthcare, words like frigid, anorgasmic, hysteric, and cold that were commonly used to describe women became unacceptable. And along with vibrators, a good deal of the problem went away for many women. My mother's vibrator was hidden away. Our daughter took him on dates. I think at a bachelorette party, they were given away as prize for months with the ladies. And I don't know how many vibrators my wife owns. She could probably come to bed with a bandolier of them, depending on what her mood is, what shape she wants. It's really, I will, women, women so often complain they don't get enough attention paid to them. But when it comes to sex toys, women rule. And that, which is to say that women still don't have sexual health problems, and that women can't actually, as we anticipate, women will be able to use the nocturnal flow erections as an indicator of the sexual and cardiovascular health. But for men, their erection rings, have never caught on. So why is that? If you had told me, Susan, 4 years ago that I'd be speaking to Susan on a podcast about erection rings, my attitude would have been like most men, male pride. I don't need that. It's not about need, it's about want. My wife, I'll just pick on her. She doesn't mind talking about these things. My wife doesn't need a vibrator. My daughter doesn't need a vibrator, but they prefer it because it helps to optimize their performance and produces a whole range of other sensations. Men, one of the jokes we have when we're at the American Urology Association conventions or the International Society for Sexual Medicine is you can tell the difference between a gay doctor and a straight doctor with one question. Do you use an erection ring? And the gay doctor will roll his eyes you're like a woman asking a woman whether she uses a vibrator. Like, you're an idiot. Of course I do. Last night you got a better one. And the straight doctor's reaction is, oh, I don't need that. Maybe some of my patients might need that. It's kind of like Superman and Kryptonite. Oh, not for me. But so let's get back to these numbers. Why are men reporting erectile dysfunction when they're getting hard? It's because as all men get older, our erections fade after we get them. They fade faster. That's just a function of aging. And in retrospect, what the data is showing is so obvious. So, you're a 12, 13-year-old guy, your girl gives you a peck on the cheek, you hold her hand for 5 minutes, you get an erection for an hour and a half with minimal stimulation. It doesn't happen when you're 25 or 35. It certainly doesn't happen at my age because your erection fades faster for a variety of reasons. But one of the physical reasons is it's not just mental. One of the physical reasons is as we get older, the smooth muscles around our venules, our small veins, get weaker, and the venules get stiffer with age. They don't pump blood back to the heart the way they did. Women have this issue as well too. If women actually have more fragile, if you will, their microvasculature, the small veins age faster than men. If I sit on a plane for 8 hours, my socks get tight, my rings get tight. It didn't happen to me when I was 25 or 35 years of age.
Right.
Why is that? It's because I'm not pumping blood back to my heart the way I did. The impact of the penis is blood is not being held in as well. Vibrators for women overcome this because vibrators, aside from the pleasure, the neurological aspect of them, vibrators stimulate the arteries to stay open, keep the blood flowing. It's part of the value of vibrators for women. So rings, if men are getting erections, I'm talking about middle aged and older men, men are getting erections and are losing them. It can be multifactorial. Now, it could be, unfortunately, women too, medications that we doctors prescribe, certain antihypertensives, antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications, interfere physically with our ability to sustain erections. Or more commonly, it could be a lack of confidence. For whatever reason, I failed the last time. I shouldn't have had that third cocktail. Why do we stay out an extra hour dancing? I'm doing it too tired after this. All those, I'm worried about paying the mortgage. There's a baby crying in the next room. We had I think my wife is cheating on me. Whatever the reason is, if a man gets an erection, he's getting blood in. He's pumping enough blood in. Now, a pill helps. Pills put a little more blood in, but they don't keep it there. The therapy needs to be directed, in the vast majority of men, to keeping blood in the penis, and only a ring will do that. And the emphasis has been on the other side of the circulation, not the venous side of the circulation, but the heart and the arterial side of the circulation. Why? Because one, those are the sickest people that the doctors are seeing, that the academics see in their office, and they project that onto the general population. But also money. Doctors,
Mm-hmm.
money rules healthcare. And we have
Yeah.
lots of tests for assessing your heart and your arteries. We have almost no tests for assessing your veins. And where does healthcare go? It goes where the money is. So what's recommended to men who have ED? Get a cardiovascular workup, which is true. Although our device can tell men whether you need that cardiovascular workup or not. Because if a man is having, pick on a man my age, I'm having 4 nocturnal erections per night, and I'm reporting ED. I don't have cardiovascular problems. I'm getting enough blood in. There's something else going on, psychological, alcohol, it's a medication, something else going on. Whereas if a man my age has 1 or 2 nocturnal erections, I got a cardiovascular problem. So our device helps both doctors and men figure out what the problem is. But we realized that rings are the answer for most men was a game changer from coming from our research. Rings, think about the variety of female forms for vibrators. Rings for men, these hard silicone rings in general, they pinch, they're uncomfortable. A man has to be completely hard in order for it to really work because essentially putting a noose in your penis because you get hard and you're cutting off the blood flow. I didn't understand that initially what I was doing because I invented our rings are made out of a soft elastomer. So they allow the arterial blood to flow in and only slightly, somewhat constrain the venous return because I want to count number of nocturnal erections and assess their duration of firmness overnight. Then I realized that I had solved the erection ring problem because they were being made out of the wrong material. They need to be made out of material. Yeah, this is actually how it sits. And the material, let me take one off here. So this is a soft, stretchy, spongy elastomer.
Mm-hmm.
So you asked me how I got involved in this. So this doctor challenged me with a way of coming up with nocturnal erections. I was inspired by my wife. I was scratching her back after yeah, I would say that probably half the heterosexual sex in the United States starts when a man is scratching his partner's back, which takes a bra off at night. Why? Because bras are irritating to the skin. There's a silicone strap in the back, and they tug and pull on the skin. My wife, who comes from the fashion industry, said there's some study that says the average woman adjusts her bra 8 to 10 times a day. She's often unaware of it. Uh, and then I
Wow.
became from hearing from why? Because it's pulling on the skin, and actually that made me aware of, gee, I probably adjust the waistband of my underwear 3 or 4 times a day too. I don't think about it anymore. I don't think about it as being uncomfortable, but it's pulling on the skin. I saw my wife had a stress ball on her desk. And I said, oh, duh, why don't we make erection rings out of elastomer? Stress balls made out of elastomer rather than silicone. And then I saw this other feature that my wife's bra had, and it's a hook. We have the only erection ring for a hook because that way it's easy on, easy off. It doesn't have to be snapped like a rubber band over the penis. I saw my wife's bra on the ground. I thought, gee, a bra is a ring that opens and closes. Women don't put on bras over their head. It opens and closes with a hook. Why don't we make an erection ring with that particular feature as well? I got into this for the data, but then also inadvertently discovered a solution for most men, which is put a ring on it. If a man wants to optimize his performance, put a ring on it and take a pill. Because we've also done 2 studies that show that a ring is as effective as 10 milligrams of tadalafil, and which is the most commonly prescribed PD-5 medication, is Cialis. And the two together are synergistic because the pill puts more blood in and the ring keeps it there. Now, you asked me about resistance for on this. So one resistance point comes from the urologist who needs to accept that we actually should be recommending rings to people. And actually we should be getting data with our technology on men. It's hard for doctors to incorporate new things into their practice when there's no money in it. Because one of the problems in sexual health for men and women is that the electronic health record drives everything. And there are no mandated questions or even recommended questions about sexual health in the electronic health record. But the
Oh,
other resistance point is simply too proud. They don't admit that they need some tool, and women need to help them overcome that resistance
yeah.
and put a ring on it for them.
So I have a question on nocturnal erections. How is that connected to vascular function and heart health?
No one knows.
Oh,
So
good.
that is a great question. I was just discussing that with an academic urologist last night because we know that the number of nocturnal erections is a reflection of cardiovascular health. That's been well established that men who have before men have heart attacks, before men have strokes, they report not having morning wood. And one is not enough. And we all laugh about morning wood, but one is not enough. A healthy man should be having 3 to 5 per night. We know that the number of nocturnal erections, if it deteriorates, can be predictive of a cardiovascular event, but we don't know what really turns nocturnal erections on or off. If you ask a urologist, they'll say, we need to provide nutrition to this organ at night. By the way, some women have clear erections too. So what's going on? Why do we need to provide blood to this organ if it might make sense if people were unhealthy?
Hmm.
But why is it that healthy people have the most number of nocturnal erections? In men, that isn't. That's probably the same thing in women too. So if someone is having sex 2 or 3 times a day and has a healthy penis, why do they got to send blood to the penis at night? So what happens at night while we're sleeping and it occurs during our deep sleep, and nocturnal erections are actually a marker of quality sleep, probably a more accurate marker than a smart ring.
Oh,
But the nocturnal erections, something goes on in the brain so that the sympathetic nervous system turns off. The parasympathetic nervous system is then unresisted. An erection occurs, and then in a healthy person, 35 minutes later, sympathetic nervous system turns on again, and the erection's lost. Why this happens, we don't know. And we have a lot of now with our technology, a lot of research is being done, and one of the papers that will probably start in about 2 months at the University of Utah is going to be on men. They're going to do EEGs on men. They'd have men sleep with an EEG on and wear our device at the same time and try to figure out what part of the brain is producing these erections.
oh, so you don't know that yet.
We don't know. There's so much that we don't know.
Wow. So why do you believe that medicine has traditionally treated sexual health in isolation rather than a whole body wellness?
I don't know if it's really been treated in isolation. There's always been a sort of don't be obese, be relatively good cardiovascular shape, and
Yeah.
obviously it's embarrassing to men and women if you get winded after a few thrusts. So I don't think it's been treated in isolation. I just don't think people want to say, oh, we're culture inhibited. So men don't want to talk about this with their doctors, and the doctors don't want to talk about it with their patients. We're a really sexually interested society. I think I actually think it comes down to money. We doctors ask people about vomit, feces, urine, bad odors. There are also some embarrassing things that doctors ask about, but all those questions have money associated with them. This is the trap. I'm old enough that I started out with paper records, and there was no electronic health record, and you made it up. This is hey, you got a problem. These are the questions I'm going to ask you. I'm not being told by a computer
Right.
what are the right questions to ask. And the computers are certainly a valuable aid to not missing things. But I am certain that if the electronic health record said, hey, Dr. Justin, you can make an extra $25 if they ask the following questions about someone's sexual health, I'd ask the questions. We ask. So I just, until there's money motivation, I just don't see this problem resolved for men or for women. I've never been asked about my sexual health without initiating the conversation. My wife has never been asked about her sexual health. Birth control is another thing. I'm not that, but that's birth control is not. That's only one aspect and really not the only. Certainly by no means the only aspect of sexual health. I don't have an answer, really satisfactory answer. I'll just say that it would be fixed if people can make money doing it,
Yeah.
asking those questions. Here's the most
And how,
important question. Here's the most important question that a man should ask himself, and his partner should think if he's having problems. Is your problem that you can't struggle to get an erection? Or is your problem you get an erection and you lose it? So if you don't mind, Susan, let me get back to the definition of erectile dysfunction and what's wrong with it.
okay.
Because when we label someone as having ED or they label themselves, and they don't really have ED. They just have a problem that can be solved with a pill and a ring. It's not really ED. So it's just a source of shame, at least often a delay in figuring out what the problem is. So the International Society for Sexual Medicine defines erectile dysfunction the following way. I'm paraphrasing, men who can't achieve an erection is one group. Men who can't maintain an erection. These are two totally separate groups. They don't belong together when things are being researched. And then the last part of the definition is, or can have satisfactory intercourse. How do you define satisfactory? And by the way, intercourse is often not what people are doing. Penetrative sex is not the be all and end all. It might be the be all and end all when it comes to research, but that's to my mind like 50 years out of date. It's just so most men don't really have ED. They just have fading erections of aging or venous leak, as doctors call it. And the answer is a pill and a ring. Now, for women, it's going to be interesting because when we assess clitoral blood flow in women, we'll be able to identify where the problem is related to a heart problem, an arterial problem, whether it's due to medications. We'll be able to assess for women what's the right dose of an anti-anxiety medication. Maybe you don't want to take either one of those things at all if you're premenopausal. And for postmenopausal women, especially with the emergence of testosterone replacement therapy, we'll be able to say, what's the right dose for you? Because another thing I really dislike about the conventional doctors, and I'm one of them, is we treat everyone as if they're one size fits all.
Yeah.
And that's stupid. Look, you and I are obviously different genders, different ages. If you saw a doctor with high blood pressure and and they just put us on the same pill, said come back in 3 months, 6 months, that's dumb. They should want data. They should say, take this pill. I don't know if it's going to be right for you. Let, let's get a blood pressure cuff. Give me 2 readings a day for 2 weeks. Come back in 2 weeks, or let's have a telehealth visit in 2 weeks, and let's review your data. Let's see if this is the right pill for you. This is the right dose for you.
For women, what are some signs that they should be paying attention to in themselves or their partners that may indicate deeper, maybe cardiovascular issues?
Anyone who's diabetic, hypertensive, should want to know I'm talking about men, right? Should want to know their sexual health data early on. With, but when it comes to sexual health, I think the key question is how many times a week are you initiating sex, and how many times a week are you receptive to sex? So,
Mm.
right now, in order to get testosterone therapy as a man, your doctor's supposed to ask, and if you have Medicare, doctor's supposed to ask 3 questions: How's your energy? How's your sleep? How's your libido? Everyone wants more energy.
Right.
Everyone would like to sleep another half hour, and no one knows what libido actually means. So when I take care of men or women, because I haven't prescribed testosterone for women, postmenopausal women, I try to make libido objective. How often, by asking about initiation and receptivity, because those are one, it's decreased in not taking the initiative is an objective signal of an issue. Now, the issue could just be psychological. The issue could just be in a relationship, or it could be related to alcohol. But it's also can be a signal of a cardiovascular problem. And so it's an important question to ask. And it's also, if you want to, look, we know that in women, the women who have 3 orgasms a week with a partner have half the divorce or separation rate of women who have 3 or less orgasms a week with a part with themselves or with a partner. Now, I'm afraid to back that with themselves or with a partner. That's really an interesting statistic. So clearly, paying attention to initiative, whether one wants to take the initiative or has active desires, so to speak, that's a risk factor both for someone's mental health, the health of their relationships, as well as the cardiovascular health. But no doctors ask that question.
Yeah.
They should. So what's been interesting with prescribing testosterone postmenopausal women is that you can take someone who's in their 70s who misses it, and they'll say, "Gee, I initiate sex only 2 or 3 times a month now, maybe once or twice a month." And by right dosing of testosterone, you can get them to be initiating sex 2 times a week and being more receptive. Men struggle more with receptivity. Women have to put up with men, so they're more receptive. But men struggle with receptivity. Men come up with all sorts of excuses about work, money, whatever. You
Yeah.
blame the other person. I hate that word "you" in relationships, but often it's just a question of hormones. And I've been able to successfully treat men who are low T in their 40s, to the point where I've had two wives tell me you saved the marriage because there are it's and it's not just about the climax, obviously. The intimacy is profoundly valuable to both men and women. And so
Yeah.
getting data, we live in this incredible age of healthcare wearables, smartwatches, smart rings, now smart wearables for sex. Getting data and using, I don't like to call them toys, they're optimizers, is profoundly important to people's overall health.
Yeah. I think it's equally as important as the wearables for your health in other ways. So I think that's great. I really do. So, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to leave my audience with?
Sure. I'll start with what you and I discussed offline at the very beginning. Most men don't pay enough attention to their health.
That's
They
true.
Women pay more attention to their partner's health quite often than they do. It's really, if things are really going to change for men, women have to encourage them not just to, hey, go to the gym. Women need to encourage men, especially men over the age of 45, 50. Get the data for your sexual health. Just the way you get your baseline electrocardiogram, you get your baseline liver proteins. Get your data for your sexual health, both from a device like ours, and be certain that you get your testosterone checked,
Yeah.
your testosterone and your free T. And as I said earlier, we've had three women encourage the men to get their device who got cardiac catheterizations. We're all on the road from erectile fitness to erectile dysfunction. We all would like to know where we are on that road, but we need data. So women need to encourage men to be more active about getting their data, not just about, hey, nagging about going to the gym. And then rings are optimizers of a man's sexual performance. And a lot of guys are just embarrassed to introduce them into a relationship. When a guy gets a sex toy, and this is just from the sex toy industry, when a man introduces a sex toy into a relationship, the woman, it gets used usually tops 3 times. If a woman introduces a sex toy into a relationship, it gets used whenever she wants it to be used. Whatever, if you're involved with a man who's resistant to using a ring, you need to help him overcome it because what do rings do? They will help him to last longer, be more confident, have more intense orgasm. But most importantly, from a woman's perspective or the partner's perspective, he'll be more confident. He's not going to lose his erection, and the woman will be more confident that he's not going to lose his erection. For my wife, we actually, because we're old. Before we started using erection rings, there's sort of this rush. Hey, we're turned on. Where are we going to make love? What are we going to use? And now it's much more relaxed. Why? Because she and I know that with minimal stimulation, I'm going to stay hard for 45, 50 minutes. Probably longer than she wants me to stay hard sometimes. That's a game change. Things are so much more relaxed.
Yeah.
So, parting words. I'm sorry, that was rather long-winded.
No,
Parting words would be: if you want to optimize your man's performance, put a ring on it, and have him take a pill.
I love that. And so, where can my audience find you and get more information?
Sure, you can find us at myfirmtch.com. You can reach me personally at Elliot, Elliot at myfirmtech.com, and look forward in late this year to being able to get the world's first monitor to help the clitoris.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much, Dr. Justin. It was a pleasure to have you on. Very good information. I'm sure my audience is really going to benefit from this talk and have a conversation with their husbands.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today on Susan LoPresti Wellness Mind, Body, and Soul. I hope this conversation with Elliot Justin open your eyes to just how deeply connected sexual wellness, cardiovascular health, and overall vitality truly are, especially during midlife. This episode is a powerful reminder that our bodies are always communicating with us. When we move beyond shame and silence or quick fix solutions and instead embrace awareness, data, and prevention, we give ourselves and the people we love the opportunity to age with strength, confidence, and clarity. If this conversation resonated with you, I encourage you to share it with someone you care about because these are conversations that matter and they can truly save lives. To learn more about Elliot's work and Firm Tech and to explore how technology can support proactive, heart-centered sexual wellness, be sure to check out the links in the show notes. And as always, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It helps more women to discover these important conversations. Also, please share it out with your friends and your family who you think would benefit from listening to my podcast. Until the next time, remember, healing, vitality, and wisdom are always available to us when we choose to listen to our bodies and honor the journey. Again, thank you for listening. I'm Susan LoPresti, and this is Wellness, Mind, Body, and Soul. Have a great rest of your day.